Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by thebigfouraccountingfirms.com. Check out our blog and subscribe to our podcast for career advice, recruiting secrets, and the latest Big Four news. Hope you enjoy the show.
In today's episode, I wanted to cover something I haven't spoken about much before, but is a huge problem in the Big Four and in corporate culture in general, and that is discrimination. There are many forms of discrimination. There's racial discrimination, age discrimination, gender discrimination, and religious discrimination. And many people think that discrimination comes in the form of people saying racist things to your face or saying discriminatory things to your face. You expect discrimination to be straightforward, but it's not. Discrimination often occurs behind closed doors or behind your back. This can be extremely confusing to young people and many Big Four candidates because all of the Big Four are rated very highly on the Diversity Inc. rankings. Additionally, there are also diversity strategies like PwC's For Real About Diversity program, where they try to get people to look into their blind spots. So there's all this awareness of diversity at the Big Four, but that doesn't mean that discrimination does not exist at the Big Four, and it happens pretty frequently, and there are blind spots that they don't see. And just because the firms are ranked very highly in diversity rankings and have diversity programs doesn't mean it's all sunshine and rainbows with regards to inclusion. And that's what I wanted to cover today. I wanted to go over some common forms of discrimination and how you'll see it happen at the Big Four. But first I wanted to go over the definition of discrimination. The dictionary definition is the unjust or prejudicial treatment of different categories of people or things, especially on the grounds of race, age, or sex. And I basically consider it being treated differently because you don't fit in. You don't fit in with the in crowd at the Big Four. And discrimination occurs at the Big Four because of these in crowds not including people that are different. And differences that typically prevent people from being included are differences due to race, age, sex, and religion. Those aren't the only reasons. There's personalities and other things, but it's those cultural differences and age differences that make people stand out or not fit in or not want to fit in or not have the same lifestyle. And now we go over the definition and why it occurs. Let's cover how discrimination impacts people's lives at the Big Four. One of the first ways that professionals experience discrimination at the Big Four can be being left out of teams or key projects or new client wins, because a partner wins a client or a project and they only include the people that they like or that are similar to them. And so if it's an older white male, he'll only include white males or white people that he can easily identify with. Maybe they went to the same school as him. This is one of the most common forms of discrimination, is being left off of teams and key projects. If people don't like you or can't relate to you, they won't put you on their teams. So you might get put on the client that nobody wants to be on or nobody likes. Not because you've done anything wrong, it's just you don't fit in with this in crowd because you haven't had necessarily the same lifestyle that they've had. And often partners favor people that are similar to them. Therefore, if there are new projects, they select people they like. And like we said before, if those partners are white or certain race or a certain age, then they're going to select people that are similar to them or have had similar lives to them. People that they can relate to, who they feel like they know what those people are going to do, whether it's right or wrong. And oftentimes, they don't know that they're doing that. And that's why I'm saying there's discrimination, but it's not necessarily cognizant all the time. And another way that the Big Four discriminate that nobody really talks about is age discrimination. It's hard to fit in the Big Four when you're older because the Big Four are favorable towards young people. They recruit young people right out of college because of the pay gap and the favorable pay gap between what partners make and then what young people will make. So they don't really recruit older or experienced professionals. So these environments favor young people. There's a lot of internal campaigns about social media, about going out to happy hours and these huge team lunches with young people. And those environments aren't really favorable to older people, because if a bunch of young people want to go to a happy hour, they don't want to invite the guy that's 20 or 30 years older than them just because it's not cool or just because they haven't been hanging out with 40 or 50 or 60-year-olds their whole lives. So there's a lot of age discrimination. And additionally, if there's a lot of younger people on a team, they're not going to really include an older person. They're not going to look to choose an older person. If there's an older senior associate or an older associate, they're not going to pick that person because it doesn't fit their mold. It doesn't fit their age group. They don't want to delegate to or speak to an older person. So there's a lot of age discrimination that happens at the Big Four, not only from a recruiting perspective, but from teaming and inclusion overall. Another thing that often happens to diverse people in the Big Four is they don't get promotions. A key part of getting a promotion at the Big Four is having somebody that's willing to go to bat for you and willing to speak about your performance at the performance review sessions. If partners don't like you or they can't relate to you, this means you will probably miss out on promotions. And oftentimes they'll say it's due to performance or that you've met the standard guidelines, but you haven't gone over and above the performance metrics for this year. And this might not be true. You might have done exceptionally well. But because the Big Four partners don't know who you are or haven't gotten to know you because they don't think they can relate to you, because you don't look like them or you don't believe in the things that they believe in, then they won't stand up for you. And so a lot of diverse people miss out on promotions. And this is often overlooked, and it's explained away by saying that performance was standard. And performance at the Big Four is really subjective, so it's easy to do this. And this happens very frequently. And I've seen many cases where there's been diverse people that have gone over and above what's necessary to get a promotion, and they were overlooked because there was nobody that was looking out for them or nobody similar to them that was willing to stand up for them in these promotion meetings. Another form of discrimination that happens at the Big Four is that diverse people get coached out. This is similar to the part we spoke about before about not getting promoted. And it's a lot easier for a diverse person to get coached out because if people can't relate to you because of your age, race, or sex, then they're going to feel a lot better about coaching you out or giving you a really bad performance review because they haven't connected with you. They haven't really gotten to understand who you are or even work with you. They haven't put you on the teams. So they're a lot quicker to say that something's wrong with you or you don't fit in. This is unfortunate, but it happens a lot as well. I've seen a lot of diverse people coached out a lot sooner than poor performing white people or poor performing people of similar sexes and ages. This happens very frequently, and there are other poor performers. It's always diverse people or people that don't fit in that sort of get the boot a little bit sooner in the Big Four. And the last thing I wanted to speak about with regards to discrimination and how it might impact you at the Big Four is that at the Big Four, they often have higher standards for diverse people because if you don't fit in, if you're in the outside looking in to your group at the Big Four, they have higher standards for you. And this is because they don't know who you are. They haven't gotten to know you. So in order to gain their trust, you have to perform over and above. They don't try and talk to you, or you might be a little bit nervous about talking to them. So the normal way of building rapport by relating to people and having social networking with them isn't there. So you have to be able to deliver a higher standard than your peers or other people in your group. So diverse people often have to work much, much harder to get the same promotions, to get the same salaries, if they can even get the same salaries. And I've seen this many times because there'll be people that gossip a lot or just socialize, and those people get promotions and they don't have to work as hard as diverse people who might not be willing to socialize or who might not get included in networking sessions or happy hours or things like that. So they don't have that other outlet in order to move up the political maneuvers that other people are able to utilize. So they have to do it through their work, through client relationships and things like that. So there's this higher standard that often is put upon diverse people. And if they have higher standards for them, then guess what? It's like we said before, it's easier to coach those people out. It's easier not to give them a promotion. And it's like, well, this person hasn't been part of our group. They haven't got connected. And it's not because they haven't tried. It's because the people within the Big Four that are in the in crowd haven't tried themselves to include those people. So it's easier to have higher standards and then coach these people out. So those are some ways that discrimination surfaces at the Big Four. And those are some ways that you might experience them. As far as how to avoid discrimination at the Big Four, and also how to avoid discriminating against other people at the Big Four, I'm going to include that as a Patreon post on our Patreon page. And our Patreon page is where we have all of our premium content, where you can start getting premium content for just $1. To find out more about that, check out our Patreon link in our show notes.
If you need help and guidance through your Big Four recruiting process, make sure to check out our links to our books and courses in the show notes below. For additional Big Four career insights, tips, and tactics, visit our Patreon page, whereas for as little as $1, you could start receiving unique guides and checklists to help you throughout your career. Support us by not only donating to our Patreon page, but also by subscribing to our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast player today.